I'm not a financial advisor, but this is how I do my monthly money planning, so I thought I'd make a presentation to show how that works. Actually, let's not use the default sheet since we get a nice GID that is 0 for the first sheet, and we cannot rename them afterwards, so let's not use the first sheet. The UK tax year starts on this date, the 6th of April, so that's when we do our monthly planning. Ugh. That much better. So let's start with income. Let's inventory everything, including maybe some vested stock. I'm using stock as a placeholder for the stock ticker. And vested stock value. By default, I assume the value will be listed in US dollars. So maybe I get after tax. Everything here is after tax. Oops. And maybe this vested at $123. Actually, this is all wrong. This should be on in May, since this column is all about income the month ending on the date listed. And of course, since the tax year started, there's no income, so I'll just black that out to prevent making that same mistake again. And all of this. And this is pounds. This is US dollars. And we'll get back to the translation between currencies later. Does this make sense? Not really. Let's only count total income to be the disposable income. Actually, let's include also the vested stock. So this and these are, no, not this, is calculated values. There. And then you have expenses, rents, commutes. Cash is just untracked expenses. Under which sums up to be living expenses. There. Everything is pounds. All the expenses are negative values, so for other, Shift F2 brings up a note, which I prefer to comments because comments need to be resolved, whereas notes can just be there. So other, maybe I bought some crappy desk, and what else? Some paper for printer, and for fun things, maybe I bought a radio, which I spent too much on there. So that would be the total expenses. Now let's bold that. Let's go back to income and sum that up. So it's C3 to the 3. There. And total income being that. Actually, let's do this. Always nice to add some lines. There. What else can we do with income? We can try to project the total, projected for the year, which would be 12 times the average of C3 to the N3. And so on. For expenses, it can be a bit more complicated because maybe I'm not expensing things every year, every month. So maybe I only have, for example, maybe I only have 2 vacations in a year. So if it looks like that, the total is 800 and the projected is minus 4,800. That doesn't make much sense. So instead, what we're going to do is take the highest number of months that we have filled in. Oh, actually, that's the wrong column. There. Wrong row, There. We're going to take the column with the highest value, the one that I filled in the most. So let's take, for example, row 13, the rent. So that would be, take the row, and then we take C13 to N13. There. And we see that we have 1 month filled. This is a bit of a complicated formula, but if I fill in more, you'll see that it grows. And if I fill in halfway through here, something jumps there. You can look up the documentation for the match function, but just believe me that it counts the number of things that are filled in the range if you use it like this. So if we use it like that, then we can take 12 times the sum of C22 to N22 divided by that number. And it's completely wrong. So if we fill in this number, let's say we filled in everything here, it became 400. If we fill it in here, it became correct. So just trust me on this, it'll be correct. This is the projected expenses as you're filling this in. So let's say you filled in this much. Now that is half of the year is filled in, and I've only had one vacation and one missed fun. And we can see that the vacation one is projecting that I will have 2 vacations a year. So actually, let's use that for all of our expenses. Yeah, this is not right. I need to lock these columns there. Lock the rows, I mean. There. So this projects, this should of course all be negative numbers. There. So that is income and expenses. Let's just clean it up a bit more. This magic formula here actually works quite well for other income as well. Other income could be for people who have Patreon, it could be that, or it could be a tax refund, or, well, anything. There. So this is both US dollars. That should do it for income and expenses for now, except for some other minor cleanup. Next step, let's put some dynamic data in here. Because we need some historical value, it's a bit more complicated, but it'll work out just fine. So we get 20 days worth of data, even though we don't need it. Because what if the day is on a Saturday or Sunday or other non-trading day? Then here we have that. And as you can see, the end of the year has not happened yet, so we don't have that. Oh. Yeah, let's hook that. Let's pretend the stock here is Amazon. And now we can convert some values. It is C7 divided by C28. And actually, let's create another one. Total income including pension. So this is now including everything. No, it is not. It is even using the wrong value here. C8, our newly created one. And since we're here, we can add some nice colors. And let's go all the way. There's some nice colors. And I like to make everything that I should not fill out gray. Actually, a bit more gray than that. That way I know that everything that is white I still have left to fill out. Next, we can look at assets, which are cash and non-cash. So cash I divide by the account name. Maybe I have a HSBC US account as well. And Interactive Investor cash account. And then I have non-cash. So at the beginning, this is when we need our B column here. At the beginning of the year, let's say I have all pounds except for this one and this one. Here, we need to be careful with the units. It's B42 plus B43 plus B44 divided by B29 and then B45. We need to extend these. There. So total non-cash and total cash. This is the same. Now, yearly sum doesn't really make sense here, nor projected. So let's add another column called latest value, which we can get in the exact same way as before. Index from B34 to N34. There, so that's the latest value. If I put a 1 here, you see that it changes. So it always picks the latest value. Let's go all the way there. Yeah, the sum is not going to be correct here. Because the latest value is 0 and I haven't filled things out. So let's say if I put in 100 here, well, then we get the latest value sum of 100. This will work in the normal case. This is just because I'm backfilling the whole thing. That's why. So now we can also add totals, the net worth, if you will. Liquid as opposed to, say, pension, which I add elsewhere. So this is which you might want to have in another currency. And now that we have the total, we could add another interesting column to our savings. here, which is the value here, Q34, as a percentage of my total ever, which will become, it's not there yet, Q49. So there. Oops. There. So let's say I have filled in this whole thing. Now we see that of my total net worth, £400 here, £100 is in my current account. Not super great, but that's our test here. Let's add some great savings. Whoops. That's maybe, this is maybe more realistic. There. Now only 0.91% of my money is in my current account, which is more reasonable. So let's clean this up a little bit and then go on to the next. I can actually reuse the yearly sum here to get the latest value minus the first value. So we see how much I have added or removed to this section. So you can see my current account has gone down by 200, my savings account has gone up by 200, my investments are not going well, but these are obviously just examples. And projected, I can do a similar calculation, but I'll skip that for now. So let's block out the projections. There. Yeah, this one is not accurate because it's the wrong currency, but it's pretty close. I can actually correct that by dividing by Q29, which is not there, of course, since I haven't added it, but there. So there, much more correct. It's actually pounds now, so let's correct that. So that's that section. Next up, pensions and transfers. If you have pension in another country, then just convert the currency the same way we did for non-cash. then we also have something I like to call transfers. And here, because this is talking about a time period and not a point in time, it is not applicable to the day the tax year starts. So this is rare that you would convert between currencies, but you can do it this way. You can, however, do transfers of other kinds, like transfers into investments. Actually, let's have two lines. Investments in pounds, in dollars. So maybe here we buy and here we sell. And that's how I would do investments. The total sum here makes sense. Maybe we paid into pension. And just another 1,000. Most of this is pounds. There. Let's not project this. Investments are too sporadic to be projected, so it's probably not going to give a good value. I mean, good information. Oh, sorry about that. And then that we have the transfers, we can find out how well the investments have gone. We can actually, I changed my mind again. Let's only do investments in pounds. We can go profits. And profits are the total non-cash. So let's say C 46 minus B 46. And of course, since we have 0 listed here, actually let's pretend we have exactly, well, it's not going to be exact here. It looks, so we have £10,000 here and £11,000 there, and everything else is the same. But we don't have £1,000 worth of profit because the exchange rate changed here. But it's almost £1,000. So then we can call it, profit in non-cash. We can do similar for pension. It is C55 minus B55. This is as simple as summing them up. it's not, because we need to ignore all of those currency exchange errors. So there. So, right. This will always look bad unless I do the matching thing again, but that is too complicated, so I'll skip that for now. So the total profits, pretty color coding, and let's have a default color. Which one did I pick? That one, yeah. That should be included. Oh, obviously. Now we have the profits, and we could also do totals. Actually, that's not quite correct. We have totals, and now we can make profits, which is exactly the same, kind of, except it also includes our investment rate. There. So here we invested £1,000. We need to include that C60, which means we actually made a loss, which is entirely correct. Non-cash. Deltas is the correct word. It's the word I was looking for. It's not totals, it's deltas, obviously. Okay, for cash, that is line 39. So we can actually take the total here, C64 minus C60. No, plus. Here's the C64 minus C64. What I've done here is calculated the how much it changed. First the delta, which is the pure change part, and I have subtracted or added the investment and pension pay-in values so that we get an accurate representation of how much it went up and down, excluding the fact that that we paid into it. project this, and latest value also doesn't make sense. Ah, that's not what I meant. And then we can do this as a percentage, which seems like a good idea. We want the latest cash value. Oops. Latest cash value is 416.52 on line 39, and non-cash is 46. 39 and 46. Pension. Total pension, that's Q55. Well, not very interesting. I can do the match trick to get this right. B2 and 2. Is that not right? No. It's 3. That should do it. Color. Okay, so now we can add some more things, like we can add a cash flow, which we can put here. So cash flow would be how much cash I have, which is C40 minus B40. So I have this much less cash, and cash flow minus investments. 27 plus, oh, it's not on the screen, 62. There. So that's nice. And a last thing to add, let's do a rat race. So if you're familiar with the fire movement and the 4% safe withdrawal rate, this will make sense to you. Otherwise, well, maybe not so much. Okay. I can explain it a bit, I guess. So let's say safe withdrawal rate, which is the percentage that is safe to withdraw from your savings and spend, and you assume that your return on investments on the remaining money will top that up, and it's all supposed to be compensated for inflation, etc. 4% is a normal percentage, so that's what I'm going to use here. And the total, let's skip pension for safe withdrawal rate reasons. So use the B51 here. So we have B51 there. This is how much I would get per year with this per month. Let's just show that. And these are, of course, pounds. Right, so this is not enough with these savings, obviously, but we can look at other values as well. Let's see our totals, no, our deltas. Yeah, let's look at our delta, and let's include a special one here. I'll be using these values from employer. So let's see what actually is the money from the employer. I would say it's the salary, skipping pension, and it's the vested stock value. So let's call it 2 and 8. Oh. At yearly sum 2 and 8. Yeah, let's correct this value actually. There. So we have 2 and 8. Well, 2 plus 8. No, this doesn't make any sense. Okay, yeah, actually. 2 plus 8. So much we've got there. Let's call it cash and non-cash in one. So I won't need these. So the total non-pension is 0.66 plus 0.67 minus what I got from employer, which is Q66. So you see here I would have gotten, I would have made a pretty big loss here if I didn't have my employment, but instead I made a gain of, or a net worth gain of 375.65. And here these are all calculated. Let's clean that up. Let's skip these. I'm sure they have some semantic value, but I'm skipping them for now at least. And just to clean this up, I'm sure there's a better way, but this is how I delete all the remaining cells. Rows. There. So this is pretty much what I'm using at the moment. I'll pause the video and start filling in a bit more realistic values so we're not looking at ridiculous things. And then I will walk through populating 1 month of expenses, etc. So all I've done now is to fill out a whole bunch of dummy values. As you can see, the expenses are somewhat sparse, but that's on purpose because maybe I didn't take out cash every month and I'd rather not put in a 0 It just looks better to me. I see that there are some things that I forgot, like to drag out some formulas. And further down here, I forgot to tag these as calculated. So let's do that now. There. Even better is, let's see. Oh yeah. So now we have pretty colors as well on the deltas and the profits. The deltas look more, there's more movement there, and that's obviously on purpose, because profits are, it doesn't show up the £1,000 that suddenly shows up. It's just counted away. Yeah, so except for some minor mistakes that I made in coloring, this should be pretty much set up. Since you're probably not going to have the exact same setup, I don't think there's much of a point at making everything absolutely perfect. Whoops. But I do want the right units on this, because it's whole units. There. So this is what it looks like at the time I do my monthly inventory, and we'll see why it looks like that. But I have done my inventory in early November, and I'm pretending now that I'm doing the inventory in early December. Okay, so let's say I have the fixed salary. My payslip still says 2,000. Still the same pension. This month though, let's say I got a bonus of a whole bunch of stock, so I got 10 stock, and that was 10 at a price point of $123, automatically calculated here to pounds. I had no other income. Yeah, actually, let's say I had a Patreon or a tax refund or something of 1,000, so good month. I'll put the unit back there, much nicer. Yeah, let's say the expenses were all the same. When I'm done with a column, I fill it out as gray. So here, I didn't buy any vacation or any fun stuff. There. And here, if you look at the formula up here, you see that it's not a formula. It's suddenly just a fixed value. Whereas if I look for this one, I see the complicated formula for getting that. And this is because sometimes the sheet takes much longer to load if you have a whole bunch of formulas that depend on the dynamic data. So I collect just all of my dynamic inputs under this headline here. And once the data exists, once there is a closing value of the GBP USD, close of day market value, it'll show up. What I do here, in order to save this dynamicity, is to do a Control-C for copy, and then Control-Shift-V for paste values. And now I have the raw value in there. So now that's cemented with all the decimal places we see. Cash, I log into my HSBC account and see that I have 1,500, say, because I got this extra income, so that's what it is. Let's say nothing else changed. I log into the investment platform. Let's say that went up for some reason. Again, mark these as these are final values. I did not do any investment or change of currency. Oh yeah, so let's say this vacation here, it doesn't have a note, as we can see. There's no little black triangle. So let me do a Shift F2 and put in Australia. I went to Australia for £400. That's how magic I am. Oh, and these should actually not be blue. I just realized. they should be the normal color. There. And I'm done with them. And then I realized also the pension here is actually a bit wrong because it's only including the normal pension pay-in, the row 63 here. It's not including the employee pension and employer pension. So that's row 3 and 4. So I'm going to correct that since I just thought of it. Minus C3, no, 4 and C5. It was 3, 4, 4 and 5. Yeah. There. So when I drag that out, I see suddenly we're losing. The pension pot is losing money, it seems, if you look at this. And it actually is, because we're paying in 300 a month. And the fake values I put in here, I just put in the same values. It's not going up or down. So the net of that is that the total is 0. But I'm actually, like, this is a bad pension plan because it's actually losing money according to these calculations. Let's fix the formula. So that is how I do my monthly inventory. And I see projected values. I also put in other things, like when I do an investment and there's capital gains. Well, when I do a negative investment, meaning I liquidate money, I put in how much the capital gains was. So actually, let's put in that. Capital gains. So this was a purchase, so obviously no capital gains involved there. Here, let's say I incurred £50 in gains. This I will put a special highlighted value that's hard to miss, because I will use it when I do my self-assessment later. So when I do this whole tax year, when it's all done, I know I have to revisit the purple columns. Right, let's put in a default color here because it's quite ugly. There. And C63. And this column, of course, is the one to make sure it stays below, 12,000, I guess. Otherwise, you start having to pay capital gains tax. Nobody wants that. And here we can see that that's not right. Something is wrong with the calculation of this. So let's see. That's 02 plus 08. 02 plus 08. So that should be about 18,000, and it is not. 02 plus 08. Oh, because it's 03 plus 08, obviously. That was a typo, right? So in this example, I got 18,000 over this year from my employer after tax. And if you look at my net, how my net worth changed, it did go up. I hope I made the example in that way. If we go to deltas, total delta is, well, this is wrong. It should be the latest value. Yeah, that's the problem. So let's do some C, and some. Oh, if error. There. So this is how much the total changed by. So I actually gained 5,000. But since my employment was this much, I actually made a loss, a net loss. Now these numbers don't fully add up because 68 and 60. Yeah, I guess I should do that. No. right? O67 and 68 Q67. Yeah, that was actually right. So 067 and 68 are these ones. Yeah. So in my this is actually including everything, including pension. So that was, I just misspoke that I made a profit of 5,000. I actually made a profit of, let's make it clear. Total non-pension. This is an important column, I mean row, so let's bold it. There. So for the year so far, the total net worth has gone up by 3,463, but because employment gave me this much, had I not worked at all, I would have made a loss of 15,000. So this means that I cannot really retire yet, which also makes sense here, because if we look at the latest value, the safe withdrawal rate here is 125.66 per month. And scroll up to my expenses. Even if I stay with just living expenses, no fun expenses at all, it's about 10 times that. So yeah, continue working for me. But let's just fudge the numbers here. There. Here suddenly I can have 5,000 a month if I suddenly got some weird inheritance. And if I got 18,000 from my employer, it doesn't really matter if I work or not. So that's how you can run these numbers. You can adjust, you can project, you can take your actual numbers and then fudge them. And what if I put in this much less? What would happen then? But of course, if you remove an expense in a simulated timeline here, put it back into your current account, for example. You won't be able to simulate investments that way, of course, but you can still check your non-cash investments. Like you can put in a percentage here. Let's go. Oh, yeah, I mean, I already have it here for profits. Apparently my investments have gone great. No, that's my cash. My investments have not gone as well. Now we have the January number is sneaking in there. That's why it's not looking good here in the end. But this is because I have a balance and I have not put in a balance at all for January, because it's not January yet. So the last month is always going to look bad, like, oh, your bank account is empty. No, I just haven't done that month yet. You could do fancy things with a match formula like I showed before, but I don't bother. When you, oh yes, this title is actually wrong. I'm going to rename that now. Monies. When you are done with a tax year and you think you're done, like this should not change. Just to avoid making a mistake, protect the sheet, the whole sheet, tax year done. And you set permissions and show a warning. No, restrict. Yeah. No, that's not right. Change permissions. Show a warning when editing this page. All right. So if this had been fully filled out and I started doing that. Oh, are you sure you wanted to edit this sheet? Now, chances are if you locked it down, probably you're already in the next tax year, so you don't want to do that. So, but if you're correcting a value or fixing formatting, then yes, and allow this for 5 minutes without warnings. I think that is it. There are many things you can do and add sheets and pension contribution calculations, etc. But this is the base of everything. So I'll stop there.